What's up, everybody, and welcome to America's most premier, premium, exponentially, probably the world's sexiest podcast alive when it comes to toys. Thank you and welcome. It is Wednesday, and we are Toy Box Chronicles, and thundering in as he always does, bringing the power of the sexy, Mr. Alexander Storm. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Good toy evening to you, brother. Good toy evening to you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Hey, look, we are excited. Just when you thought this podcast, this podcast just drips sexy, okay? And then when you think it can't get any sexier, we have our guest on tonight, and it makes me start to really wonder. So I am excited, and you guys came here to listen to us talk, but we wanted you here to listen to our guest talk. So without further ado, and without wasting your time, let's roll it. Mr. Alexander Storm, hey, I would like for you to do the honors of introducing one of the sexiest toy makers alive currently, if you don't mind, sir.
Absolutely. Like I said, only somebody could come on after that amazing intro. We happen to be a guy that makes amazing toys and something that is creative and just blew our minds the first time we saw it. And that is GrindHouse Toys. If you don't know the name, you soon will. Got a Kickstarter coming up. And we will welcome Mr. Chris Scott.
Ta-da! What's up, Chris? How you doing? You're here.
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, sir.
Doing great.
Look, we're excited to have you here. You have something coming up in a month. We wanted to provide the platform just so that we can hear about everything that's going on with GrindHouse Toys and kind of like vision behind it and what you see the future is. So, yeah, man, if you don't mind just giving people a little bit of an intro to who you are, what you do, and why you do it, would be awesome.
Sure. I appreciate you guys having me on. This is a really exciting project that I'm working on right now. I'm Chris from GrindHouse Toys. I have made a new toy line that's coming out soon called World War Hell, and it is a horror-based 1/18 scale O-ring, but not. I can't say your father's O-ring because it's not our O-ring,
No.
But something different, kind of shaking things up, doing something very new, but also old. And they're not movies, but they look like movies, which is kind of fun. And we have a Kickstarter June 13th, Friday the 13th of next month. And they will be there for everybody to purchase to their heart's content, hopefully.
All right. See people trickling in. Rat says he's hyped for this Kickstarter. That is very good.
I appreciate that.
Link is in the chat. I posted that, so you click on it, and I'm watching it. So everyone watching needs to get notified on this. So sign up. So, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Chris. So, like we've seen the toys. We've seen you at a couple events and everything. But like, what was your intro into basically being the principal person of GrindHouse Toys? What started that?
Well, so I started off actually as a customizer originally. I got into I've been customizing toys really since I was a little kid, but I didn't really get hardcore into it until I got some Marauders action figures. I really love the Marauder figures, and so I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. I like the 25th anniversary stuff and Pursuit of Cobra especially, but I was like, oh, these are really cool because I can really mess around with them. And I never really knew if I could paint that well with them. And then I just started doing it, and I watched a lot of videos and taught myself how to do it. And Luckily, Ed Hellman, who is usually always working at Joe Fest, like the Fresh Monkey Fiction booth. I've known Ed for a few years through the Marauder Facebook page, and Ed recommended me to Bill Murphy from Fresh Monkey Fiction to do some paint masters and do some work. And when Bill reached out to me, I was like, absolutely, I will do some paint masters. And luckily, he actually let me kind of have some even more fun on it, because he let me do the art direction on. Most of Monster Force, at least season 1, 2, and 3, I've done most of the art direction with Bill, of course, because he's the head honcho of all of that. But he let me kind of come up with my crazy ideas, and just colorways and designing just some of the stuff on those guys, which has been pretty fun. But they had an amazing crew on that, and as much as I love doing that, I really wanted to do something on my own, and come up with. I've got tons of ideas, and I'm always wanting to push. And so GrindHouse Toys came to be because I'm a huge movie fan. I've loved them my whole life. I went to film school a million years ago, and it just kind of fit. And so I wanted that schlocky horror B-movie feel, but also mixed with toys. And then GrindHouse Toys kind of just came to be, and then it just evolved into this, what it is right now. And here we are working on a whole line that actually I just started back in May of last year. So it's only been about a year that I've started on that. So yeah.
Awesome. What was your first first toy to line independent that you did on your own solely away from Fresh Monkey Fiction?
So the first thing I did was the Multiverse Massacre figure, the Dread Trooper. It was a homage to a colorway, but I pretty much I wanted the colors of like the Creative Cobra from 93. I believe the Creative Cobra is 93. I just thought it was silly that an Easter egg colored soldier was like, that's what we were going with, the bright pink, yellow, blue. And the pastels and silliness of it. But I was like, all right, let's make a character with those colors that can, pretty much is just taking over different worlds and, killing them off and taking, their resources and then jumping from world to world. And I thought something was just really fun about a, horror kind of sci-fi. This was more sci-fi with Multiverse Massacre, but the whole idea of that came more so from having a figure that I knew I could only put one figure out, and that was Joe Fest 2023. But I wanted it that, one, it would be an army builder, so you could get multiples and kind of have a little bit of a army if you wanted, but also that it could fit in with any of your other 1/18th scale figures.
Yeah. You
then
did a great job on that.
Thank you. And after that, the next year I did the Necromancer, which was the next figure in the Multiverse Massacre. I was like, well, if the Dread Troopers are the bad guys, we need somebody to fight him. And there he is, the Necromancer.
Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite in general. Yeah.
That's cool. That means a lot.
Yeah, no, I think what I really like about it, and it's hard for me to explain to people unless they I can show them this or they've seen it or they know about it, is like the level of detail that's like in the Necromancer specifically, like the level of detail and like soft goods and everything that you included in the Necromancer. It's like you see some like 1/12 lines and you're like, I don't understand why you cheaped out, right? Because you have this like 1/18 scale that's like really, really heavily. I mean, it's a great figure. Plus, not to mention the packaging is something that I'm like, this is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. And your booth was, I think we have images of the booth too.
We do.
Yeah. Nice.
This was awesome. So what's the is there like a thin line of thread that flows between like your previous run and then this run? Like, is there something that's kind of like connecting them all together? Like, do you have that kind of like story where one day we'll see like a release where it all makes sense? Like, are you that far in?
Yeah, because that's again the fun part of Multiverse Massacre is it could be anything. These are portal jumping characters, and I already have some plans for maybe some Dread Troopers maybe to show back up in this new line. Or maybe, of course, I do love Necromancer. I'm a sucker for translucent plastic. So, and I know a lot. I've been hearing people say, I every day I get multiple emails saying back in stock request, back in stock request, and I'm like, I hear you guys. And so I want everybody to be able to get the figures if they want them, but these will be now, instead of using the tooling from the Eagle Force parts collection, these will be the World War Hell, being that they will now match with, World War Hell, being that they're an O-ring line. And these new parts are just going to be incredible. Like the sculpting is just still blowing my mind every time I see these figures.
Yeah, I think that's the aspect that I thought was very intriguing about your work, is that even though it is 1/18th, it's scaled like a one, or sculpted like a 1/12 figure. The detail is in there. The faces, like Chet said, the cloth, everything's thought about. And I've seen where there's certain other companies that they've gotten back down to 1/18th, and it's not there. How do you keep that detail in the 1/18th to look like it's 1/12?
So luckily the sculpting was already done really well on Necromancer and the Dread Trooper. And I just tried to push it as best I could with the paint. And this is where a lot of the bigger companies like Hasbro or Mattel, they I'm not saying they cheap out completely. I don't know how they do it, but they try to keep that price down, for the consumer. And instead of trying to do a deluxe or any of that stuff, there's so many paint apps that it's really a lot of just the paint applications. And then again, the soft goods. And I see a lot of companies cheaping out on that also, where they don't put a wire in the cape, or it's just or I hate plastic capes and stuff like that, because it loses a lot of that. And I feel like with Necromancer or the Dread Trooper, it was a premium figure. I mean, they were $40. I mean, it wasn't a cheap figure, but I wanted to give everybody their money's worth, because I'm a collector too. And so I wanted to just try to put everything in. And when you're working with the factory, try to put as much possible as you can into it. And if they can't do it, at least I try, shoot for the fences and try to get it as close as possible. I'll sit there and I spend way too much time painting these prototypes, because I'm like, well, I'm going to make it as perfect as I can so that there's no excuse,
Yeah, and that's always the point. There's always a perfectionist quality whenever you're doing anything. It's like, how far do you go, and when to learn how to pull back? That's always the tough part about it.
It's true. And with World War Hell now, I'm in control of all the sculpting. I'm working with multiple sculptors. I've worked with James Carter. He's the main sculptor on the line, and he was a former Hasbro sculpt supervisor. He was in charge of Vintage Collection and Ghostbusters and a bunch of stuff. And he's old school too, because he used to sculpt in wax before he got into ZBrush. Awesome guy. I love working with him. He's sculpted most of the line, besides a couple heads. And some of the heads were done by Arlen Pelletier. And he also has worked on a lot of Hasbro stuff. And he's done Winchester's head and Malum's head. And then also I've worked with Mark Gerwig, Mark II Design, who also does all the weapons for Action Force and all of that stuff. And he did my stand and some other parts. So just you gotta surround yourself with talented people, and that makes it easy for me as a painter or art director or designer. Is just, if I got the goods to paint, and it makes it easy to make the figure look cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do you? So you touched on something I think is important. So one of the things we like to do, at least on our cast, is kind of talk about the down and dirty of behind the scenes when it comes to decisions, whether it's the cost of the figure or the selling of the figure. And you said it, I look at your line as a premium line for the 1/18 scale. And so when you're looking at all of the pricing, everything like that, do you ever how do you combat people that say, oh, like, $40 for a 1/18 scale figure? Like, why am I paying that? Like, do you come across that a lot, or do you find that your collectors are like, yeah, give me like 6, right?
Well, and that was one thing I really thought about before,
Mhm.
with the figures and trying to find that price point that would work for people, because I wanted to give them as much as I could. And so I definitely thought about that. I was like, okay, are people going to just be like, why would I pay $40 for this, 4-inch figure? Like, I'm not going to pay
Mhm.
$40 for that, because I can just go spend 20 on a classified or what have you. But that's why I was like, I got to find that balance. And I was really
Mhm.
surprised that I didn't have as much. I had some pushback, but majority of people were okay with it, because once they opened the package, even
Yeah.
just seeing the box, a lot of times people were like on top of it. And with World War Hell, I've told people too. I'm like, they're like, how much is it? And I'm like, we're still working on the details, but I'm like, it's not going to be more than the Necromancer. It's not going to be more than 40. And I thought still I would have pushback on that, but most people are like, okay, because they know. And so again, me being a collector as well, I know prices are going up, all of that stuff. And then like with army building, that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow, a big price. But like, if you can get that value for your money, you just, because I collect Mezco sometimes. I got a lot of Mezco
Yeah.
figures, and those aren't cheap, but like, I never feel like I overpaid for those things, because they
Mhm.
give you so much and the quality's there. And if we can do that there, because everything, like the money I put into this line, I want it to show,
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got the Purple Gang Gang. Wholesome Warlock popping in. It says Chris
There
taught
he
me that
is.
O-rings and action figures didn't mean butthole, which is I just thought I had
You were
to throw
supposed to
Hey,
that
tell
in.
everybody that.
you
I
got you
know.
got to learn something new every day. So
Yeah. And
It took a
he
while
also says
to convince him, but
yeah, hey,
lots of I had to show him how to, I don't know.
he also has some forward thinking. Necromancer was a steal at $40, and he is absolutely correct. It is a steal if you can find that at $40. But um now
Thank you,
again, we've
Joe.
seen the packaging, and of course, obviously, now I can more or less tell that you were a film student due to this study of the inside of a blockbuster.
Yeah.
um when did you decide that that was going to be the packaging? And was that just something that just came to you, or did somebody suggest it, or what was it? Was it always there, or something you just decided that, hey, you know what, just gonna run with this?
Well, a couple of years now back, I was working on some stuff, and I was working on some horror stuff, and I had the idea, and this was originally something I wanted to do when I was working on some 1/12 stuff. But I was like, it's, and a lot of companies have done the VHS packaging before
Yeah.
me, but it's never done to the same level, I feel. And so I knew I wanted to do it at some point, but I was trying to wrap my head around how do you put this 12-inch figure in there, because it's
Mhm.
not going to fit properly, and if it is, it's just going to make the box really big. It's not going to really feel like a VHS tape.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little silly. Well, when I got the Dread Trooper ordered for Joe Fest 2023, to get them quickly and to get them cheaper to ship, because I had to get it. I think I got it like a week, maybe 2 weeks before the show.
oh wow,
And they they shipped it. It was on by air instead of by boat, so it was more money. But luckily it was all in Ziploc bags pretty much. And so I was like, well, I can't just sell these in Ziploc bags. Like,
Yeah.
I could, but this is my first figure. I got to do something special. And
Mhm.
so I was like, wait, I could put these in VHL cases. Let me see if I can find some clamshells. And I luckily found some, ordered them up, and they had them where they had no hub. So they actually didn't hold
Oh,
the
okay.
tape. They didn't have the
Yeah.
hubs, which was nice. I guess a lot of people use them for like hard drives now, for storage. And so
Okay.
I ordered a bunch, got them in, got a bunch of, I designed the artwork.
Ziploc bags are art. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, yes, they are. And so, I got some artwork. I worked with Adam Riches on the first one on the Dread
Mhm.
Trooper, and I've known Adam for years now. And I was like, hey, you want to draw like some Sunbow style cartoon Dread Troopers, and he's like, yeah. And so he knocked those out for me. And then I had like a sample figure I sent to Eddie American, and he killed it with the photography. So I was like, well, okay. Well, now I have 2 pieces of artwork that could be packaging, no problem. And so I ended up making the sleeve on the Dread Trooper double-sided. And I don't know if a lot of people realize that, but like, you know, each side you could switch to, or if you wanted more than one, you could display them both ways. And so I was like, this is what I wanted. I've got the VHS case. It was still in a plastic bag, but it was in the box, in the clamshell. And I thought it was fun because it was kind of a carrying case as it was. I also put a little insert that was like the old GI.JOE blueprints. I drew something up on, and, you know, just to show how to switch the heads and all that stuff, to kind of have a little bit of fun, and then also to name off all his weapons and gear, and, you know, just nerd out a little bit with it. And I threw that in there. It had stains on it. You know, that's kind of the whole, you know, thing is give that wear and tear. And then for the Necromancer, I'm like, all right, this was a big hit with the tapes, which I love doing. But the fact, I was like, I could do it better. And so I started working with Brian Sauer, and we knocked it out with that packaging, which actually ended up winning an award a month or so ago for the Necromancer, which was pretty cool. The Iowa Art Directors Guild, which is like, it's been around for like 80 some years or something. And which was really neat because he just put it in there, and I was like, that's really cool. And but yeah, coming up with that whole package of it being in a box in the sleeve, I was like, this is where we are now, because this now can be put up on the shelf and look at it, and it fits right in there, you know, as a VHS.
Absolutely. It is. It's incredibly forward thinking, and yet you know, because I know we were fans of the Marvel Legends, and they had their version of the VHS,
like the X-Men.
And then we see this, and you're like, wow, he like jumped that to the next level. It's like at that point you're like, I should just sell off this stuff and everything, because it just doesn't match the same vibe, because it's so much detail in it. Even when you pull out the case from the Necromancer and it looks like it's an actual, like, you know, VHS is in there, it's just so incredibly forward thinking that it for me, it's more like this, where in the hell did they come up with these ideas for this kind of stuff, and why didn't we think of something like that?
Rad said, not only am I buying the wave, but I'm also buying 200 VHS tapes of old horror so my wife can scream at me.
I feel that. I understand. I've been buying VHS tapes like crazy.
You just hide your figures inside the VHS tapes.
You really and you just put it all on the same display, and that's the beauty of it. Like you won't even know there's figures in there.
Never know.
So do you, as like the designer and creator of it, do you have like what is your collection of your own figures look like? Like, do you have like every prototype reiteration there was, like, framed somewhere? Like, what does that look like?
So I've like with Monster Force and like the figures that I've worked on with that, I have some test shots. I always like ask, I'm like, can I get those? Because being a collector, like you said, you know, I want that kind of stuff too. And so, but even with the Necromancer and the Dread Trooper, since those guys were using Eagle Force parts, you know, we didn't really need any test shots. I do have the first of both of them that were like the first paint sample, and I'm like, yeah, these are mine, you know, and I have those sat there, you know, like, because again, that's that whole like, this is cool.
Yeah, it's a baby, yeah.
Yeah, and so like same with like the artwork, I have the Necromancer inked artwork by Mark Pennington back there, and then also some World War Hell artwork that's for the poster. And yeah, like I want all that stuff, you know, and maybe at one point when I have too much, I could probably move some of it out for people who maybe want to collect it. But right now it's still so small. I'm like, yeah, I want this. I got to put this on my wall. But like the figures, especially with World War Hell, once I start getting test shots, it's I'm going to be all over that kind of stuff. It's going to be pretty fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember I was at your booth, and I was like, hey, I'm going to take like really up close shots of these. And then some of the shots I was getting of them, I was like, these photograph way better than some of the 1/12 scale stuff I've had to photograph. And I was like, this is like right up on your figure. So even the ones that you had at the show, Those ones were like fantastic. How
Thank you.
close to finish were the ones that you had at the show if people got to see it at Toylanta?
So all of those are actually the painted prototypes. Those are all the hand painted ones by me. And so that's where that perfectionist kind of going stupid with my goggles and trying
Crazy
to get as close as possible. Yeah. Trying to get that all perfect. And so those are all those guys. But like I have all the faith in the world with the factory because I'm using the same factory as the Four Horsemen. And so yeah, so they've been fantastic, and they did the Necromancer, they did the Dread Trooper for me, and really Monster Force kind of was a little bit of a test. I'm like, all right, let's throw everything in the kitchen sink at this with paint, and they did a great job matching what I painted, and so I'm like, all right, I can do this, and especially with a lot of toys don't really have a lot of washes or dry brushing. Like a Joy toy does it pretty well. Does it actually really well. But like a lot of like main lines that you're going to buy at the store don't have a lot of those paint applications. Like Four Horsemen, of course, does a lot of really great stuff. They're super clean and nice. Yeah. But I was like, all right, this can work, especially being a war line and a horror line. They can look a little dirty. They can look grungy. And I can add a little bit of that grime and nastiness to it because that's what the world they live in.
Yeah. When you're thinking about that and you're looking at the lines, and I think that there's so many people that want to get involved in the toy industry now. Speak to us about the leveling up. If you hadn't worked on Operation Monster Force, would it have prepared you for this situation? Is it good to start paths where you're working on someone else's line and then increasingly learn and then move to your own? Or what's the advice you would give somebody out there that's sitting at home and they're sculpting and customizing, like, you know what, I want to do that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like, you definitely go for it regardless, even if you don't have the experience yet. But like, definitely work with people who have that experience if you have the opportunity to, because it is tough to break into it, with the right people, because, a lot of people want to do it. People want to make toys. And right now we live in a world where you can 3D print and paint your own stuff. And those guys were killing it this weekend at IshCon or Toylanta. You get those guys, or from what I've heard, which I'm going this year for the first time at Legion's Con, those, the 3D printers and the painters, they do great with that stuff. And so definitely, if you get a chance to work on a line, you can learn so much, because I've just in these last 3 years, I've learned tons and tons, and I've been very fortunate to be able to work on not only Operation Monster Force but other toy lines with other people and get to really just learn the process, because it's really a process. A lot of people, I see it all the time online where people are complaining and negative about like, oh, it takes so long, why are these pre-orders so far out? And it's like, I don't think they really understand how much work it takes to get from the first steps, and a lot of it's just back and forth with the factory. It just takes so long, getting everything right.
And also, I think that, when you're doing it independently, I think people have gotten used to the point of Hasbro and they're large, mega, big. Of course, if they want some rare plant flown in from the Amazon, they could probably get that happening. But everyone else in the world has to like take time and patience and work with people. And you probably bumped priority wise because there's a bigger company in front of you. So I think people, they want things now, and nothing's wrong with that. But it's like for the smaller guys, it's like we're trying to get it to you as fast as possible.
Absolutely. And that happens to a lot of guys all the time, and which is a bummer. But like, I mean, the volume is always going to win, because I mean, that's where they're making their money, and that's their big customers. But the little guys like us, we still get some love, which is nice. And just really just push away at it, and as long as if people are buying it and want it, we can keep making it. So which is fun. And those pictures you just had up, Eddie American shots again, those so good. That dude is such a great photographer, and he builds all that stuff. Like I've never said, hey Eddie, can you do this or do that? Like, he just sends me pictures. I'm super like anal about going over, but like, no, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And but like, not with Eddie. I'm just like, send me whatever you want, man, because I know he's gonna kill it.
Yeah, always looks great. Now, since you are, GrindHouse, and you're like, you're not with obviously over at Big Bad Workshop or anything else like that. I think that people don't understand the ins and outs of what it is when you're the guy and it's your line. What's the best part of what you're doing right now? But also, what's one of the challenging things that people outside probably never have an idea that they're going to start a company and like, hey, it's going to be great. I'm put toys on the shelf. I'm going to walk around. Everything's going to be great. But what's one of the challenging things that you find out when you're the man now? What's coming up as an obstacle or roadblock for you?
Really, there's tons of roadblocks, really, when you think about it. Because again, you're just one guy,
Yeah.
you're just, hey, Dirk, it's just one person. So, and the other thing, and this is one thing you don't really think about a lot of times, you're your own boss. And so, sometimes, like back, years ago, I feel like I haven't played a video game in forever. And I used to love playing games, but like now I kind of feel guilty if I'm going to be like mess around with stuff. Cause it's not like, like you have a regular job or you're doing something and you're like, oh, I'll get to that in a little bit.
I can walk away from it.
Yeah. But no, you're letting down yourself at this point, And so, you got to just really stay on top of stuff. And there's just a million things. And this is one thing that like, I can't say not enough nice things about Bill Murphy. Like, I don't know, that guy's like a Terminator. He's like a robot because he runs so much on his own. And he did that so long with Fresh Monkey Fiction. I think they've been doing it for 10 years. And he's on top of everything, like talking to the sculptors, talking to the artists, talking to colorists, the packaging. And so that's another thing you don't realize is how many steps you have to go through to just get to this finished product. And being a one-man show, I like to keep it kind of like that because I just like the control, because it is nice to just be like, I'm going to do what I want, don't tell me what to do. But you also now have to get it accomplished, and you have to hire the right people to work on things. And when you're working on things, sometimes you hire people that it doesn't shake out, it doesn't pan out, and now you're wasting money, you're wasting time, and there's just a lot of obstacles, but it's worth it.
Well, I know, so you did say the comment with Bill is I've had the opportunity, because he's done the SoCal Joe show a couple of times in the early days, and he gave me the whole Eagle Force spill one day that just rocked my world. And ever since then, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to actually collect this line. Damn it!
It's a great line, and he comes up with so many characters.
He does.
I think he's over 100 now on Eagle Force, which is coming off of just those little metal figures and remaking some of those characters. But like some of the stuff he's come up with is just so much, and it's fantastic.
Exactly. Odd Frog Entertainment actually pops on. He says the business becomes the video game, and he is absolutely right.
Yes. Which it is way more satisfying anyways. And just drawing and coming up with stuff and getting that to that, it's a long, a hustle to get it to that point. But like once you get there and it's actually, a tangible thing, it's amazing.
So now we're looking at June 13th. If you actually haven't heard, we're going to actually let everyone know right now. Go over to that Kickstarter and sign up for it for June the 13th, Friday. So you should be able to remember that date stuck in your minds for World War Hell, which I love that title, man, because you're going to remember that any kind of convention you're at. What did it take to bring this futation to line of World War Hell? Was it something that you always had in your mind, or it just started developing more and more, working around? Like, where did the idea of this whole encompassing crazy battleground horror come from, bro?
So it's funny because originally I was designing a character. So Sergeant Graves is one of the main characters in World War Hell. And I was actually designing him for Monster Force. Was originally I wanted to do a World War II character. I was like, let me make my character and be like, hey Bill, let's get this guy in there. Like try to push come on, man. Being the toy nerd that I am, wanting to get one of my guys in there. And then it just started evolving. I'm like, no, I want to make a whole line about this. And so when you're making toys, like, you can't make a ton of different look, especially in the indie side. You can't make a ton of different parts. if you make a ton of different parts, you're going to be bankrupt within like a week. You know, it's very expensive to tool parts. It's very hard to do that. So one of the ideas that came to me was like, I've always loved World War II, and I've always been a huge Evil Dead fan, and I love all of the horror, again, like we've talked about with the horror stuff. So I was like, wait a second, if I can come up with something where one, like, I know it's Vietnam, but like, or you know, like, or even the 80s with GI Joe. You remember that cover, the Mike Zeck cover from GI Joe, where it was like the Grim Reaper with the M60.
Yeah,
and I've always loved that,
Mike
and
Zeck.
you know, stuff like that, or just zombie soldiers or skeleton soldiers. And I was like, well, I can do a soldier body, do different heads, hands, and then we can have a lot of options. And then it just started snowballing because I went down the rabbit hole of like, well, let's do O-ring. Because and the funny thing is, the reason O-ring kind of came about was, you know, the Marauders had already done amazing 4-inch, you know, World War II figures. And the you know, with 6-inch, everybody's doing 6-inch right now.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me go down a different road. And so I was like, and I never even thought I was going to do O-rings. I love O-ring. You know, I grew up with O-ring. I have O-rings kind of all over the house still. But I was like, wait, you know, Operation Recall, Call Sign Longbow, you know, Skeletron, all these Strike Force Alpha, you know, all these guys are making O-ring figures, but a lot of it's retro, which is great. And I love it. I've backed all those Kickstarters, but I was like, well, let me do something different, more to just not step on toes and do something that was a little my own lane, I guess. And so I decided, okay, let's do that. And then also, I don't think we've ever really had World War II O-ring figures. Not that I know of, anyways.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. Actually, I'm trying to think about that. I don't know. Like I said, that's interesting, but I do love the way that they look. So out of this, now, you know, whenever I tell people, whenever you have a new line of figures and everything else like that, it's like your children. You know, you're not supposed to have a favorite, but if you did.
Okay. Let me think. That is tough. Probably, as much as I like all of the characters, I still think Graves is my favorite, just because he was the first one that even though the skeleton was really the first one that I designed, Graves was the first character I designed in this world. And I've used Graves as a name for so many things over the years, originally for video game characters or things of that nature. And I've always liked it. And I just felt it fit so perfectly for something that's a horror line. You know, I'm a huge Sergeant Rock fan. And stuff of that nature. And so I wanted that kind of character, reading those comics, which my dad read when he was a kid. And so, but having that horror spin on there. And I mean, there's just something kind of heavy metal about a soldier with a cursed, demonic blade that catches on fire, but is also like a regular soldier and just a tough bastard. So I think he's still is the favorite right now.
Okay. Those two things. One, what's the storyline behind World War Hell? So the brief overlay for everyone out there.
So World War Hell is really just Colonel Malum is a sadistic. This is the guy in the pictures that people have seen. He has no face and wears like a ballistic mask with other faces on them. He's a sadistic German officer who makes a deal with the devils, because there's not just one devil in this world. Multiple demons, think of Evil Dead, all of that stuff. He has the Necrogrimoire, which is the Book of the Dead. Looks familiar to a lot of people if they're fans of that kind of those genres and stuff like that. And he makes this deal, and the Axis powers are completely possessed by demonic entities and monsters. They kind of, they turn to Malum because he's the leader in this occult kind of look. And these are all stories we've heard before, but I thought it would be pretty fun to have the whole Axis powers, the Germans, it's late in the war, so I don't know how many Italians there are and stuff like that, but still, and it opens the door for more stuff. But these demonic soldiers, and they summon right here Steamboat Willie in the middle, which is the harbinger of doom, who is
so rad.
He's a demon. He's a straight up, he's got the the hooves and the fur and the tail, and nobody's really seeing that right now because he's got the soft goods. But he brings this demon to Earth and is trying to open up the all these portals to hell. And so you have the Cerberus, which is the allied department of supernatural and occult, trying to kind of hold the gates, trying to stop it. And so they have a special forces team, which is the Devil's Rejects, and that's Sergeant Graves and the Devil's Rejects. There's only 2 members so far that I've, that everybody's seen, and that's Graves and Sergeant Spectre, who is a ghost who haunts his machine gun chainsaw with the chainsaw bayonet.
So awesome. So awesome.
Which is not super convenient, because think of this dude, he's mute and he's like Rambo. But he's like, how do you stop a ghost? Well, most people can't, and he is like a one-man wrecking crew, but unfortunately he's not always there. He's a ghost. He pops up whenever he wants, so they got to tow his gear around, and hopefully he shows up when the shit gets bad. And so I don't know, I just wanted some sort of apocalyptic, I'm a big fan of Mad Max and all of the post-apocalyptic kind of movies, and so I wanted to see, like, what if we were in this World War II era where you don't have the technology of even the Vietnam War, or later, in present day time, you have this very mechanical, we're not too old in like a medieval times. We have that. It's just a very different time period of warfare. And to have that in a world where you're fighting demons and skeletons and corpses, which are zombies, and, you having to cut them up with chainsaws and just having to, like, it's just over the top splatter fest. And it's pretty much World War hell.
Yeah. Well, like I said, man, the figures look fantastic. The story is working as well into it now. So that's because, we always have the saying with all the guys is that, story drives the characters, and you really start to notice when the creators are, really about it, is when there's a good story to it. But when there's no story, you're like, okay, they just thought of these figures.
Well, and it's funny too, because like I love, like, with like Masters of the Universe, I loved how they made those figures, but then they're like, all right, what's the story now? So they were just throwing crap at the wall to figure out these ridiculous characters. And I feel like I have a little bit of both in there, because it's like, oh, I have an idea for a character, but like what's fun is coming up with the character, but then trying to figure out, well, how does he live in this world? What's he all about? What's going on with that character? And what's driving them? And to have all those pieces start coming together, and I feel real confident with where the story's at right now.
So now, after you came up with the characters and everything, did Bill kind of think to himself, "Ooh, I missed my moment to put that in"? Rachel Monster Force.
No, because I think Bill still would do it, because he's made jokes about that. He's like, maybe get some this here or that, and we work so well together. Like it's fun to collaborate, and he loves collaborating with other creators. And so if I could get a 6-inch Graves in there,
that'd be right there. Now Rad asked a question, which is very true. We just come back and say, any merch to go along with these figures? Any plans for any T-shirts, or I think we discussed something about a graphic novel and anything, but is there anything that's going to accompany this? Any kind of surprise goals or something for the Kickstarter to make pop through this or anything?
Yeah, so I have some shirts right now. I don't have a whole at the moment, but I'm going to have some more for Joe Fest. I have some World War Hell shirts. It's got the World War Hell logo on the front. It's got the Devil's Rejects logo on the back. I plan on doing some more shirts as well, just because I love stuff like that myself, and to have it's getting, like we were talking earlier about, like that like, oh, what is that? Oh, I don't know. Like, it's like that. Not a lot of people maybe know about something. I love wearing shirts like that. But also I plan on doing some patches, some pins. I'm not sure if they're going to make the Kickstarter yet, but like that's one of the plans. But one of the things I really want merch wise is posters. Being it's a movie line without a movie. Have those movie posters, which would be cool. And I've made a couple. Like, I have the one right there of Sergeant Graves, and it's really, I'm just waiting on mostly all the artwork to be finished. I have this awesome it's I don't know if it's in the picture, but I have this awesome Sergeant Spectre, which is that ghost we were just talking about, but by Tim Barron, who is an incredible artist. I was set up with him at Geek Meet Indie. and he does a lot of artwork for like Tony Hawk skateboards, and he's done figures for like Super 7. Yes, I've done pins. I've got a little necromancer pin that I did, but I would like to do more pins. Like I think the World War Hell Shield would be perfect for pins. And I have some Devil's Reject stickers, but I do plan on maybe doing some sticker packs. Just kind of fun stuff that, go with the line and kind of, expand it. And as you asked with the comic, I would love to get that going. But it all depends. I want to get the toys, focus on the toys first, and put all resources towards getting the figures to people. And then I'll start, looking into more of that.
Now, two things I noticed with the line. One, is there any plans maybe down the future? Because, we know it's not going to be just one wave. It's going to be multiple waves. So we're going to put that out in futation that it's going to be more and more waves of this popping up. Any plans for any vehicles or anything, any World War II inspired vehicles that might be popping up down the line in your mind?
Well, and I haven't kept this much of a secret. I say this to like anybody who usually asks. That was one of the reasons I was like so gung ho about 3 3/4 and 1/18 is because vehicles are so much fun. And I'm not saying we need to go make a USS Flag, but we do. I mean, I have one, so I know mine are going to be all over that. And whenever I have these figures, side note, the foot pegs right now, the plan is for those to fit the same as your old GI Joe vehicles. So you could stick them right on there, even though they're updated articulation. You got to have that kind of mix. Same with the backpack pegs. I don't know how many people are going to put old school backpacks on them, but I like maybe that with these backpacks, you put a flamethrower on one of your old Joes or something of that nature. But I want to do. I've already got an idea for a motorcycle I'd love to do. Come on, just think of skeletons driving a Indian motorcycle with a sidecar with a 30 cal shooting on the side. Just ridiculous and make you laugh when you look at it. So
you need my credit card now for that, because we can just give it out right now. It means you said Indian. Yep, I'm buying it.
That's in Graves's bio right now. Is he has a highly customized Indian motorcycle? So I definitely plan on. I would love to do vehicles. So
definitely love to see that. One, now let's say the Necromancer, any of the older figures, or even because we know there's a Kickstarter going, but if like by chance you ended up, because you said one of the main questions people, when's it going to be in stock or something, where can they go to find you at so they can buy directly from you?
So if you go to grindhousetoys.com, there's not really anything for sale besides a few. I think I still have some Sergeant Slaughter custom kits from Joe Fest in there. I might have the pins, I believe, are still up there. I love that Dirk wrote that out.
Yeah.
You go to the website and there's a few things, but like once we have figures, those will be on there. And I have talked to some retailers, and a lot of indie toys, shops would love to carry the line. And so that will also be the plan. I don't want it to just be, you're not going to just be only able to buy it from me. I want to have other people being able to get them too.
Really quick, Uru Toys is joining us over on Instagram, and since you can't see any of that through the current chat, he said every time I look at these figures, they look better and better. Glad to see 1/18 cool figures. And then he said Friday the 13th, I know I will support it. Just wanted to say hi to my Ishkan neighbor. So that's from
well, if he's listening, thank you, Marcelo. That was very nice, and it was awesome to hang out with you, man. So
absolutely,
he's got when do the vehicles go up for him? Like when it's going to be soon for the 1/18th. So it's going to be pretty awesome.
Post population right there. Some Uru and some GrindHouse. Of course, put some figures. I know he had like some Fortnites, like it looked like they were painting on one side, and he had one with some Joy Toy guys working on it. It looked awesome. And so and I did see he had a motorcycle as well with Captain America. That was the 1/12 scale, but it looked amazing. So he has some amazing stuff. So go check him out too. So Chris, what shows you got coming up?
So I have Joe Fest next month in Augusta, Georgia. That's June 20th through 22nd. And that's going to be kind of like, hey, let's have a party, because that's when the Kickstarter is going. So I'm going to be pushing. Everybody's going to be walking up to me and be like, oh, what do you have to buy? It's right here on Kickstarter. You know, we're going to have fun with that. And then I don't think I'm going to be I know I'm not going to be set up, but I'm going to be at Comic-Con this year for the first time, San Diego, which
that's
I'm
right up the street
about.
from us. So
yeah, are you guys going to be over that way, or are you gonna?
So we're going. We're going to be doing a lot of like outside stuff and hanging out. We're going to be meeting up with David Vonner, Mega J Retro, a bunch of other people as well, for just like food and hang sessions. So and now apparently you.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely,
cool.
man. So we're waiting on the word. So Gavin Hignite, he does an indie toy panel every year. And he's just waiting on the say so. But like, I was supposed to go last year, but I ended up having to pull out because my bulldog wasn't doing so good. And so I wasn't able to go last year, but this year I'm all good to go. I got my hotel, my flight, and so hopefully the panel happens. That would be pretty amazing. I've never been to Comic-Con, so I'm gonna just fan out the whole time.
Yeah, you will like it as a first time. It's awesome. Yeah,
awesome.
It's like Willy Wonka gave you that golden ticket.
Yeah.
Also, sensory overload. Like, we've been to it quite a few times, but also like I love going and witnessing people that have never been.
Yeah,
because it is massive sensory overload. It's awesome.
I cannot wait. And I know I don't need to be trying to lug this back, but I really want the Colt Slither pack, so I'm gonna have to try to get that from Hasbro, and and fanning out a little bit, doing stuff like that. But no, I'm looking forward to that show, and hopefully we get to do the panel, because that'll be really fun. And then we have Joe Lanta. Joe Lanta's September. Brett, which I know he has the dates up now and everything like that. And I might be doing a custom class thing with him. We're still working out details right now, which should be cool. Awesome. Yeah. So those are the next 3 on the docket right now. So,
all right. Most definitely, we will let everyone know in our upcoming guys, especially, we got our Purple Gang buddies that will be at GI.JOE Atlanta. And if you ever want to have a good time and turn it up, just hang with the Purple Gang guys.
I love the Purple Gang.
Then you hang with SKN. Like I said, other than that, how many lines in your mind do you have planned for the World War Hell? Like, do you see it as something that, like I've got the next 25 lines planned out in my head, or like, is there specific, like anything like, that we could just hold our hats on, because now we need to know. It's kind of like, it's exactly, you're like a dealer. You just gave us our fix. We need to keep coming back and getting it. So like, when can we keep getting this in?
Oh, I'm already working on series 2. I'm working on a character right now, which I don't know will happen 100%, because fingers crossed, it's a license I'm trying to get.
Okay.
And I finished that. That's all I gave you for him. But I have a ton of characters in the pipe already. But the other thing is, a lot of people are like, "Ooh, World War Hell," but not every figure is going to have to be World War II. This is some batshit crazy stuff. Like you can go kind of all over the place. And again, they're VHS cases. Not every movie is going to be the same movie. Story. So yeah.
As long as you're not doing a Highlander 2, we're good.
Yeah, because that you literally could only make one figure. It would sell out in a minute.
So at what point in the future, let's just say by just pure coincidence, like somebody says, you know what, man, I actually want one of those cases in the back whenever they see that walking by, because we didn't know this etiquette, because we were walking around looking at it. I was like, I don't know if it's a reply to me to ask you something, but if they come up to you at a convention and they say, like one of those tapes in the back, they are for sale, right?
So right now, what I'm planning on, and it's not set in stone yet, but I'm trying to come up with something fun, because it's not like, I don't want to just be like, hey, you want to buy this empty case? But I want to have, like, they're fun, it's a fun thing, and that's really something it seems like people really enjoy. And so I want to do something, maybe if it comes with pins or stickers or even maybe a t-shirt, you know, something where it's kind of like a swag pack. And so I want this to be, you know, like I can't get those cases at the factory that I know of right now. I've just bought these out, and then I do all the printing on the paper and stuff, and I just put them together. So this will definitely be something I do plan on always having at cons. So I want to make it something special that people want. Yes, patches. I was talking to a patch creator today, hopefully get some stuff, you know, done up, at least some prototypes for now, and then get some stuff made, because I mean, it's World War II. We got some cool patch designs. The Cerberus patch is almost finished. We got the Devil's Rejects. You know, I want, you know, those faction patches. You know, I'm a sucker for like Steel Brigade and, you know, any of that stuff from when we were kids, having like, and, you know, I wear my battle jacket all the time. So we need more patches. We need more pins. We need all that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, we may have to franchise that for some of the conventions we're at and everything. Franchise a GrindHouse Toys video rental for our little section.
Put them all out there. Yes.
Yeah.
Put them all out there. It's great to have it in. Chet, any questions?
Yes.
No, I mean, we've
bars.
been hitting all of them. I agree with Wholesome Warlock though. 100%. K bars would be fantastic.
It would be also maybe some microwave popcorn, a couple of things. You know, things that just remind me that I'm there. So when I could go to GrindHouse Toys any convention, I could just pull up a chair.
You could do for popcorn. You could do Horrorville Redenbacher.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. I do like that. You know, it's funny you bring up the whole food thing. So like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with my little decapitators, my little like spider looking guys with the skull heads.
Yeah.
They're gonna. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to put those in a VHS case because you know, everything, they're not that big. I need a smaller box. I'm like, well, but it still has to fit the aesthetic. So they're gonna come in like candy boxes.
There you go.
Look like movie theater candy. So. Which will be pretty fun and creepy as it is, you know, so that I should have all that stuff. The pictures will be up once the Kickstarter launches, and it's just going to be kind of fun. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Love
man.
the branding. Love the forward thinking, man.
You
got anything else, Chet?
No, man, I think it's fantastic, man. Like I said, I love what you do. The only thing I can't tell you, and hang out after when as we close out the show, if you don't mind, just hang out for a bit. But I just want to let you know, if enamel pins are what you need, I actually have people that I work with that get them done within a matter of like weeks.
Nice.
So,
okay.
And they're extremely cheap, and I've used them for a lot of my own stuff. I'll show you when we're off camera, like the quality of them. But yeah, I can get them done very quick and shipped to you very quick.
Cool.
So,
okay. Yeah, definitely, because I'm definitely interested in that.
Yeah, but man, look, hey, keep doing the Lord's work. You know, I mean, this is like this is high quality for the size, you know, and you know, it's like $42, and like the people that I know, and this is a thing that I really love about the indie circuit when it comes to like toys, is that if you're a collector and you understand like not only the passion but like the love and the time it takes to put into these figures to sell them at $40, like I didn't flinch when I bought mine. I know everyone else that bought theirs didn't flinch, and it's the same thing that we say a lot with like Four Horsemen is like, yeah, I mean, this figure's like $90 and like I have to buy two of them because I need a scene, right? So it's like, but then you have a different level of like respect there. So I think it's really cool, and I will tell you this. We talked about this right before we went live. I have been scouring eBay, and I told you that you have the Dread Trooper Joe Fest 2023 exclusive, like complete, is $224 with I think 11 watchers on it right now. So yeah, dude, congratulations on that, because you know, you also don't see a lot of them show up on eBay, which translates to people really enjoy the time and effort that you put into the product, into it. We can tell that you have a love for what you're doing. And I think it's super smart for you to make it so that you can put these in like Classic Joe vehicles. I think that's I am the person that will buy like rocket launchers and flamethrowers and put them on Classic Joes because why the fuck not? But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. I know I've been talking to you personally, trying to figure out when this could work since Toylanta. So you know, want to put it out there for you when it gets closer to the Kickstarter. Anytime you want to jump on our show or you want us to represent anything that you're doing, it's cheaper for us to represent it on the West Coast than it is for you to come out. So just hit us up and let us know. We're happy to rep you in the way that you want. I know you're a control freak, and that's totally fine. But we are happy to at least do what we can on this side of the country to make sure that the name is getting out there. And I'm proud to say that when we started, your Kickstarter followers was at 221, and right now you're at 226. So we're getting there. We're getting there. It's going up. Yeah,
I will take them all. We just got to keep pumping those numbers up. But it's just nice because that's everybody waiting for the Kickstarter launch. So it's nice to see that people are genuinely excited to ready to purchase the product and get it made, because we're almost there. And I didn't even say that. Everything's sculpted. All we got to do is tool, and so our turnaround time is not going to be multiple years. We're going to be a shorter turnaround time, which is going to be pretty fun. So
that's fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I appreciate everything from you guys. So
yeah, we're gonna wrap up the show. Please hang tight. We'll be with you in just a second. We're gonna wrap this up. Everybody, go back this thing. We put the Kickstarter link in the chat multiple times over on Instagram. We posted it there as well. It's on Kickstarter. Search up GrindHouse Toys Presents World War Hell. So, Chris, we want to thank you very much for joining us this evening. It was a pleasure, especially understanding that you're on the East Coast. It is a major difference in time, but we appreciate it. Any final words to everybody?
I just want to thank you for bringing me onto the show. I love talking toys, and I'll do it all day long or all night long. And thank you everybody who came in to hang out with us, and come join the Kickstarter and let's have some fun.
Awesome.
I'll see you there, Dirk. I'll see you there, Dirk. I will be there, sir. Oh, so he is coming. He wasn't sure, so that's nice to know that he has now officially said it. I'm going to hold him to that.
Dirk's design will be at Joe Fest.
So if Dirk doesn't show up,
this is an amazing Dirk design right here. My little frog I have to paint.
Beautiful.
So. It looks kind of like the Hypnotoad from The Simpsons.
Yes.
It's pretty awesome. All right, we'll move you to the back, and we'll be with you in 1 second.
Sounds good.
All right, everyone. We want to thank you, and we want to hit up and got him.
Yeah. We'll sit there. Yep. The Purple Gang, they do the things. Hey, also mention when there's also shows. We got a show coming up, chat, and pretty soon, brother, June the 8th. And Robo Toy Fest out here in Burbank, California, Southern California. That is right by an airport too, if you're flying in. So it's really not that hard to get to it. But that's going to be at the Burbank Marriott on June the 8th. We will be there. Our buddies over at Odd Frog Entertainment will be there, and our also new affiliates will be Holy Grail Toys will be there as well. So it's going to be a good day. If you haven't been to the Robo Toy Show, most definitely you want to go. Also to Joy Atlanta. You want to basically make that trip out there. It's a great event. Definitely want to do that. Joe Fest, if you can try to get any of these summer events in to meet up with GrindHouse Toys and all the great people. But we're doing, brother? We're encroaching on our brothers over on the Sorlac Digest podcast, or like we like to say, the best damn Star Wars podcast in the universe and on YouTube. They are right now, they're going over everything after Andor Rogue One. They might got something good for us to go there, right, Chet?
That's right, and you're going to be transported there like the transporter deck from Star Trek to a Star Wars, so you're going to have this meta fight in your head. But we want to thank everyone. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, click the bell for all those notifications, thumbs up, and to the replay crew, we appreciate you. Sorry you couldn't be involved in the sex appeal first, but hey, bringing sexy back is always what we do on this channel, along with the rest of SKN. So, Mr. Storm, unless you have any final thoughts, we will wrap this up.
Yeah, we'll see everybody on Friday on Pixel Plastic Inc. Same, the Shadow Knows Network time, same Shadow Knows Network level. It's going to be at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Pixel Plastic Inc. Myself, Rad, Dr. Brentley, and of course, the ever loving Chet Maddox will be a Friday. So let's do this all over again in a couple of days, brother.
Sounds good. And to everyone else, thank you very much.